Welcome, everyone, to the first session in our campaign optimization series. My name is Andrew Gaffney. I'm Editorial Director with Demand Gen Report. Really glad you could join us for this kickoff session. We've got some great content we're going to be sharing with you. We've been publishing Demand Gen Report for over a decade, and sales and marketing alignment has always been a really important and critical topic. It's become even more of a pertinent issue as ABM has risen to be such an important driver for B2B companies. Today's session is going to be on ABM for sales success, leaning in with intent and engagement. We've got a really great case study that's going to look at sort of how both sides of the aisle are using signal, data, and intelligence across both marketing and sales to drive more relevant experiences. So really great examples we're going to be sharing with you today. Quick reminders, all the sessions in the series, we're going to try to make it as interactive as possible. We'd love any feedback, comments, questions. If you want to share anything on social that you like with your networks, we're going to be monitoring that on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'd ask if you could use the hashtag CO series. We'll be monitoring that, reposting, answering any questions. You'll also see some of the handles for today's speakers if you want to include those in anything you post. The presentation will last for about 40 minutes, and then we're going to take questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Go ahead and type in questions as they come to mind. You can do that right within the Q&A tab within the On24 dashboard. You'll also see there's an area to the bottom right where you can access related resources on today's topic. You can also monitor social media on the left side right within the On24 platform. Some of the frequently asked questions we get, today's session is being recorded, so you'll get a link to go back and review anything you missed or to share it with your peers. So let me jump in today and tell you a little bit more about our panelists. Jay Toole is the Vice President of Sales Development with Demandbase. Jay has been leading highly successful sales development teams in SaaS and MarTech for almost a decade. While his primary responsibility as an inside sales leader is developing opportunities, one of his most important functions is acting as a bridge between marketing and sales. Jay relies heavily on his operations background to find tools and create processes that make his team more efficient and effective. So Jay will be sharing some of that. And interesting note, Jay is also a former Demandbase customer, so it brings really interesting perspective to it. Jay is going to be joined by Tanessa Lochner. Tanessa is the Director of ABM Education and Content at Demandbase. She is a senior account-based marketing education and training manager, where she helps partners with marketers to enhance their account-based marketing strategies and grow their knowledge base. She's passionate about building the community of marketers that are empowered, educated, and supportive of each other, and we'll be applying some of that today. So really excited to hear from Jay and Tanessa, so I will turn it over to you to get us started.
Great. Thank you so much. We're so excited to be here. And something fun is that I'm actually a past Demandbase customer as well. So as you can see, we just love Demandbase so much that we wanted to come work here. So really excited to jump into all the great content we have. Talking about ABM for sales success is something that we're really passionate about. Obviously, Jay is very passionate about it because he is the one really executing this at Demandbase. And we'll talk about, how that's in partnership with marketing, but we're really going to dive into the sales side of the house, which is going to be really fun. The agenda we have for today is we're going to briefly go over the state of ABM for sales, just talking about, what is the state of ABM right now and really what is not working in the traditional sense. We're then going to dive into the anatomy of a target account. What does that look like? What does a target account even mean? And how do you make sure that you have a target account list that's really representative of the accounts you want to be going after? Then we'll dive into the target account research, and this is really where I think you guys will find a lot of great content. You'll probably be taking a lot of notes in this section because it goes into how to do this. There are a lot of different technologies out there, a lot of different ways of doing it, but Jay and his team have really, gotten this down to a science of how to research your target accounts. We're then going to dive into intent is the new lead. So talking about how to utilize intent when, talking to your target accounts and making sure you're reaching out to them in the best way. So utilizing that in those intent signals. Then we'll be diving into outbound best practices. So what are those top 5 best practices that you can really take to your team and utilize within your own sales organizations to make sure that you're doing the best outbound outreach as you can. And then going into making it actionable. So a lot of times you have a lot of different insights. You know, marketing is passing a lot of different information over to sales. Sales is researching a lot of different information on target accounts. How do you actually make it actionable? So this is really where the rubber meets the road and really taking it up a notch to make sure you're taking action on all of those great insights. So a really packed agenda for you guys today. Really excited to dive into it. So first we're going to start off with the state of ABM for sales. Like I had said, we just really want to set the stage of why we're even talking about this, right? A lot of times we kind of think about ABM in the fact that, you know, it's called account-based marketing, so it's a marketing initiative. A lot of times when people are thinking of starting ABM, that's where they go. That's where they start with. But, you know, you can't do ABM without the partnership of sales, and what does that look like on their side? You know, how does the traditional B2B marketing sense affect them, and how do we make sure that they understand why ABM is so important for the sales organization as well? So talking about the traditional way of B2B marketing, you know, I think we've all kind of seen this and understand that this is kind of a sad slide, right? And I know Jay will kind of pop in here, but the traditional B2B way of doing things really wastes time and money. And we really need to become more efficient, and that's where ABM comes in. I know as a marketer, you know, we do a lot to put, you know, fill up that top of funnel, right? We want to put as many leads at the top of funnel as we can. But as you can see here from study from Serious Decisions, only 4.4% of those inquiries convert. And that's such a sad number. You know, you put in all this time and effort and only a small amount of them convert. You go down to the bottom, only 0.03% inquiries go to closed won deals. So a lot of the, you know, in the traditional way of doing things, a lot of the hard work that marketing is doing at the top of the funnel, it doesn't convert. And, you know, that's not a good feeling when you're trying to put all this work into something and it's just not showing the results. I know, Jay, you have some perspective from the sales side.
Yeah, and it's not to say we're not appreciative of all the hard work that you put into kind of these campaigns and driving interest, but myself as a sales leader, I can't really get excited about a 4.4% conversion rate. You know, when I'm looking at successful campaigns, I want a minimum of a 10% conversion rate. And, you know, some of the stuff we're seeing with maybe accounts that are showing higher levels of intent and we understand what their buying signals are, we're seeing upwards of like 25% conversion rate, and that's really what I want my team kind of focused on and spending their time on.
Yeah, definitely, and that's, you know, why ABM is so important for both marketing and sales to get those conversion rates higher. So then going into leads aren't valued in the traditional way, and I know Jay had just talked about that. It's not that sales isn't appreciative of all the work that's happening. You know, they understand that everyone's working as hard as possible, but as this stat says, only 50% of marketing-generated leads are never followed up by sales. And that's because a lot of times in the traditional sense, marketing is just stuffing the top of the funnel with as many leads. Let's just try to hit, you know, the numbers that we can, as many MQLs as we can, and they're not qualified. You know, if you don't have that target account list that everyone is rallying around, the leads that you're putting in the funnel aren't qualified. So sales is not going to follow up with them because that would be a waste of their time. So, you know, just talking about why ABM is so important, because this number wouldn't matter in an ABM sense, right? You wouldn't be seeing 50% of marketing generated leads. I know at demand-based, that's not what we see because we're really in lockstep with our sales team to make sure we are passing really qualified leads. We're all rallying around that target account list. So in the traditional sense, you know, I'm sure that you guys have heard this as well, but sales and marketing has some misalignment in that traditional B2B, you know, way of doing things. As you can see, the little marketing person there, you know, oh, we delivered 1,200 MQLs. That's, you know, 27% over our goal. And then sales is saying, well, I'm not getting any support from marketing. How am I supposed to hit my goals when I'm not getting any qualified leads? So that's just talking about how the traditional way is just not working for anyone. It's not helping any of our teams. So we really need to dive into that full funnel ABM approach. And then this is a study from Topo, and it talks about the impact of ABM. So we've talked about why B2B really isn't working, the traditional sense of it, and this kind of dives into how ABM outperforms the traditional way of doing things by a long shot, right? It helps with alignment between sales and marketing. It helps with upsell, cross-sell, return on sales and marketing investment, close rates, all those big things that we want to be, really tracking towards. The ABM helps, and that's really why we're setting this foundation as we go into the next few sections, is that we really want to make sure that you guys understand ABM is not just for marketing. It's a whole, company initiative, and it really does make a big impact.
And
so
what we want to
Jay, I know you,
Yeah, what we want to focus on today is why ABM is a sales imperative, right? And what we're looking at here is your typical B2B buyer's journey, where we know that they're doing a lot of research up front, going onto your website, looking at articles across the web, going to your competitors' websites, maybe doing some research from a third-party analyst, re-engaging with your website before they finally make themselves known, identify themselves as a lead, and let your sales team takes action. But the reality of that is that you're getting to these opportunities way too late. You need to be reaching out at the beginning of the research, understanding these intent signals, using them to better engage with your prospects and have better conversations, and really help shape the evaluation or the conversations that you're having with your prospects and your customers.
So kind of piggybacking off of what Jay just said is that, ABM is imperative for sales. When sales is good at ABM, it's really good for everyone. And this is just a fun little graphic I put together, but I thought it just really represents, hey, when we're all doing the same thing, when we're all going towards the same goals and utilizing the same target account list, we are all going to win, right? We're going to all be on the same page and really get, more close-won business in return.
Now we're
going to talk about, go ahead.
Now we want to go into the anatomy of a target account list and what you should be thinking about as you start putting together your target account list. So when you're starting to think about some of the criteria for your accounts, you want to be thinking about your ICP. And for those of you who don't know what ICP is, that's Ideal Customer Profile. So you should be starting to think about what's the typical annual revenue or employee count of our best customers. I think recent funding is a good indicator of companies that are growing that you might want to be targeting. Tech stack I think can be a really important one if you have partners or you want to understand competitive technologies that your prospects or customers already own. This is a great indicator of potential buying intent. You want to make sure that you understand if this is an industry that you can actually sell into and have some good use cases for. Similarly, geography is important. If you know that your primary business is based out of North America, you don't want to be adding a lot of accounts from like EMEA or South America in there, because you just don't have enough of the win rates and history of success in those regions. I think understanding account segment, do we sell primarily into SMB or mid-market or enterprise? I think some people have aspirations of going up or downstream, but do we really have success there, and who should we be targeting? Next is customer lookalike modeling. Does this account have characteristics of my best customers? We need to try to find more accounts like our most successful customers. Another one that'll come up as you're doing your research on these accounts is do we have a champion at this account who has used our product or service in the past? Always, these can account for quick wins and getting, your champion involved in your company. Next would be understanding previous conversations or opportunities with this account. I think if you're not entering this information into your CRM, you're doing yourself a disservice. And it's really great to go back and understand, like, what did we talk about with these people? How should we use this information to potentially engage with them? But also, like, should this be an account that we really try to focus on? Another one would be, how big is the department that you're trying to sell into at this company? If they have a big, kind of robust team, that's probably a better indicator that technologies or services like yours are important, whereas if they only have, one or two people, are they really going to be able to make an investment in what you're trying to sell to them? You want to make sure that there are no recent changes in the market that would disqualify this account. I think this could be really important in the climate we find ourselves in today. Like, understand what are the challenges that this industry is facing, and does it make sense for us to target some of these accounts? Really important, you want to sync up with your sales team to make sure that based on past history or knowledge that they have of these accounts, that your sales team isn't automatically going to DQ these accounts. There's nothing worse than spending all this time on a target account list. You send it over to your sales team and they're like, no, these accounts just don't work for X, Y, and Z reasons. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you understand the customers of your competitors and see if these are going to be good accounts for you to target. Next, I think it's really important to score accounts and pass that information over to sales based on some of the ICP modeling we just did. So in this example, I know what we do at Demandbase is we take a lot of those ICP characteristics, we assign scores and weights to them, and then based on kind of the overall score that comes out across the characteristics that we want to model after, we then use those scores to build out our target account list. So in this example, we're saying, companies with an annual revenue over $5 billion are the most important and what we want to weight higher, while, companies with $1 to $5 billion are still good accounts. We're going to assign them, a medium score, so 3 out of 5 in this case. Then we know that, the software industry are some of our best prospects, so we're going to weight that industry higher than financial services or healthcare. And then either understanding kind of the products of yours that they already own today, or maybe, different SaaS products that make up their tech stack that we want to score higher. And we combine those all into a total account score, and we'll assign that over to sales based on, we want you focused on the accounts that have the highest scores.
As you're thinking about building your target account list and making sure you have all the data from your ICP and account scoring, you really need to make sure you have a plan in place to get that implemented. Since it is a huge part of an ABM strategy, you want to make sure that you have a really good, solid plan. You have a lot of contributors, sales and marketing both are contributing to this account list. So just put it down on paper. And what we've done is actually put together a little 30, 60, 90-day plan. And if you're anything like me, you love a good plan in place. So I hope that you guys can kind of take a look at this. We break it down into different sections of, what you need to think about when you're thinking of reviewing your cadence, setting core objectives and KPIs for your target account list, making sure that you're understanding what exactly is on your list. And then we break it down into 30, 60, 90 days to really allow you to understand what the milestones are that you should be hitting within those 3 months. So just take a look at this. I hope that you guys can kind of think about this for your own company when you're thinking about implementing your own target account list. All right, now we're going to dive into actually doing the research for your target accounts. There's so much that goes into this, from both teams, but we're really going to dive into how the sales team can dive into the research and taking action on these target accounts and figuring out really what makes them tick.
So why is account research important? When you're going through and you're researching your accounts, you're going to be able to verify that these accounts do meet your target criteria and that they should be on this list. But what it's also going to do is it's going to give you some insights that will help inform your strategy and help you better engage with these accounts. So I think the first place you absolutely need to start is going onto the account website. You have to understand, what do they sell, how do they make money, what industries are they selling into, and how can we be relevant when we help them target some of those industries. Who are their existing customers, which we had mentioned a little bit earlier in the ICP characteristics. Are they hiring for any position that your product and service play well with? Are there any recent news or events about this company that you can use in outreach or would make them a good account for you? What are they talking about on their blog? There can be a lot of really good insights that you can understand what's important to this company based on what they're talking about on that blog. This one, I think, is super, super important. If you have public accounts, going through their 10K, which is their annual report, and understanding what executive initiatives might be. So quick tip on this one, I always like to open up the 10K, and then I'll do a search for words like strategy, initiatives, plans, growth, or revenue. And then you can quickly jump to different sections of that annual report and really understand what those executive priorities are and use that in your outreach. And then lastly, understand what kind of technology tags are live. I think this is really important for like software and tech and SaaS companies. You want to understand the partner and even competitive technologies that might be on their site. Next, we touched on this a little bit earlier as well, but it's really important that you capture a lot of this information in CRM. Very rarely are you going to win opportunities on your first reach out to a potential account. So it's really important that you understand past opportunities you had with them. What did we talk about? How can we utilize that to re-engage with them? You want to understand activity history. That'll be similar to past opportunities, but it'll also help you know who at this account is actively engaging with what I'm trying to talk with them about, and I can focus my efforts on those people that are more engaged. Previous opportunities, we went through why that's important. One of the things that we do is we like to track their past campaign history, but specifically with direct mail, because direct mail means they were hand-selected by one of our sales reps, and we think this is a really good account for us to target. So we want to know how many different direct mails were they in. Do we maybe not include them in the next one, or if we have a really high-value direct mail, let's make sure that we include this account in there. You also, I don't know, most people's CRMs are probably a little bit like ours, where you have a history of contacts within an account. Some are still there. Some maybe have had a title change that isn't reflected in CRM, and some have potentially moved on. So indicating who the key contacts are so that it's easier to get into CRM, understand who the potential buying committee is really important. Next would be similar on the account side. You want to go in and do some contact level research in CRM. What are some past conversations we've had with them? What were we talking about? And then lastly is you have to make sure that you're keeping this updated. I'm not saying do this on a weekly or even monthly basis, but on a quarterly basis, you need to be doing refreshes and seeing, are all my contacts there? Have there been any title changes that might make them part of the buying committee? Is their tech stack still the same, or is that something we need to update? has this company been acquired? Is this still something that we can sell into, or is it now part of a parent company, which would, make it not be an account that we would really look at? And then, have they been growing? Have they increased their annual revenue? Have they gotten recent funding announcements? All really important things to be paying attention to. Some additional resources for doing some of this research. I think a lot of sales teams out there have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is great for understanding not only accounts, but a lot of detailed information on your potential prospects and customers, their background, their skills, what they're being tasked with, any groups they're associated with. That's all great information. Then using a tool like DiscoverOrg or ZoomInfo, Seamless, or LeadIQ, being able to understand org charts and be able to get contact info, really important to have. I think we all do Google searches to try to find information on the company and the prospects. Crunchbase is great for finding out those funding announcements and even executive changes and things like that. That is a great resource to have. Wikipedia seems like one that, what? How can you trust what's in Wikipedia? But what we found is it's really great for identifying company structures and seeing, what companies they own that fall under their umbrella, or even identifying for some of these large, complex enterprises, the different business units and potential areas that you could sell into. And then a solution like Owler that can provide you with a lot of their competitors is a great way to kind of build out your list based on, companies that share some similarities. I think it's really important to understand why people are going to buy and use that in your messaging. So what we like to do is, kind of take out what are our potential use cases and assign them to what our message should be. So what I mean by that is, if they have a lean team, you're going to want to focus your message on how you can help them be more efficient. Or if they have a complicated product mix, maybe it's right messaging, right time. If they have a built-out SDR team, we're going to focus on marketing influence and building pipeline. So these are just some examples of demand-based buyers and what they care about. And you can see there's a few more that we go through, but understanding what the use case is and why they're going to buy is really important as you start developing your messaging. Now let's get into it. Intent is the new lead. When we talk about intent, I'm going to start with talking about third-party intent. It's broken down into really, I think, 5 main sections: competitive, understanding high-value keywords, technographic intent, account news, and stakeholder content. So when we're looking at competitive intent, it's really important to understand when prospects are researching your competitors so that you can get out ahead and try to get into these accounts and shape that evaluation before your competitors are able to. Are they interested in third-party analyst reports, or even reviewing things on G2 Crowd or TrustRadius? These are incredible buying intent signals. They're actively researching technologies or services that kind of relate to you or your company. And then, do they already own a competitive solution? This is obviously some great insight into, yeah, they're interested in what we're trying to sell. We need to make sure we're targeting accounts like this. High-value keywords. I think this is really important. As granular as you can get on what types of articles are they reading and what types of keywords are they searching out there as they're researching your product or service. Are they asking about these keywords on social? Or do they belong to groups like in LinkedIn that are related to these keywords? Again, great potential buying signals. Are they talking about these keywords on their blog? That would be another great one. For technographic intent, you want to understand, are they hiring for roles that need experience with certain products? That is a great indicator that these technologies are important to them. Are they asking or talking about these products in some of those groups and asking about, hey, does anyone have experience using these? Another good indicator. Are they posting about some of the tools they use and saying, we're a big fan of solutions like these? Those are all good things to track. For account news, I think job boards and seeing, are they hiring for roles that play well into your products? That's always a good indicator. Any executive hires or funding announcements or even some of those executive priorities in the 10K are all good news to track. And then lastly would be stakeholder content. So you want to be tracking your potential buying committee and understanding what they're talking about in blog posts, interviews, bylines, or even if they've spoken at a conference recently and talked about that keyword or technology. Those are things you're going to want to track from a third-party intent perspective. And then what constitutes strong intent signals? So I think the number of relevant articles on particular keyword topics is going to be really important. Obviously, the more articles they're reading, the stronger the interest is going to be. Then kind of the frequency. Did they read about this topic on multiple days? Sustained interest is going to equal stronger intent. The next would be, how old were these articles? I think there can be newer articles that show this is a hot topic or news of the day. And older articles, this could be someone doing vendor research where they really want to gather all the news they can about a potential vendor that they want to be working with. Next would be kind of the recency, and when were they reading these articles? That is going to be really crucial to intent strength and showing strong signals. The next one, how specific are the keywords? This is really important. The more specific your keywords are, the better you can understand the intent signals. So an example of that would be, a non-specific keyword like marketing, you really can't understand intent. But if you broke it down to B2B marketing, that would be a little bit stronger. Or if you broke it down to account-based marketing, that's getting really specific and helping you understand just exactly what the intent is. So specificity is going to be really important there. And then what other intent are they showing? If they're looking at multiple keywords that you care about, these intent signals are going to get stronger and should be higher prioritized. Then we want to move on to first-party intent. A lot of this is going to be what's happening on your own website, but it could also include things like your marketing automation solutions or your sales engagement solutions, and seeing, what are they clicking on, where are they going on the site, what is engaging with them. So you really want to be able to track the recency, frequency, and the total amount of page views that they would be looking at. That's going to be a really good indicator of potential buying intent. What I like to do is then separate out, like, where are they on the site? Are they on events pages? And we know that in today's environment, and events are harder to come by, but a lot of people are doing virtual events. So seeing where people's interest might lie in some of those virtual events. Some of your other digital programs, maybe webinars are, I think, something that we're seeing people do a lot more of, and something good to track. Case studies are going to be one of the best kind of intent signals that you can have out there, because they want to see how you work with your current customers today and how you might be able to help them. So whenever I see someone that's on a case study page, I'm like, okay, now I know what I need to target them with, what kind of story and messaging, but also that they're interested in learning how we work with our customers. And then the next would be, are they on specific product pages? This can, again, help you inform which way you might want to take your messaging based on where they're at looking at products. I think the last one would be if you have like a pricing or a demo page. Those are all high value intent signals as well. And then you want to make sure that you use this intent for relevance and also prioritizing your account. So tying together the web pages they were on, the intent keywords that they were looking at, and where this traffic is coming from. I think, on the traffic side, this is really important for if you're working some big enterprise accounts where they have multiple offices. Understand where that traffic is coming from is really going to enable you to narrow down your potential buying committee list that you want to reach out to. And now I want to just share an example of how you can turn intent into leads. So in this particular example, this is a real example from Demandbase where we saw that one of our prospects had come on our site and was researching a 7 planning activities document that we had. And then there were also several researches on account-based marketing and one of those third-party analyst reports that we had mentioned earlier. These are all pretty strong signals. So what we can then do is go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator and pop in B2B marketing, which is associated with ABM, and then type in planning because we know they were interested in the planning doc. So we took our potential number of contacts down to 3, which is a great start. But then using that location feature we were talking about, we could narrow it, we could put that into the geography search bar, and we were able to narrow it down to 1 potential contact. We then, in our outreach, mentioned some of those intent keywords. In this case, for year 20 planning, we knew that was important. We then talked in the body of the email about how we can help them target specific industries that we know are important to them. Boom, what do you know? We received an immediate email back saying, yes, the time is right, let's set up a meeting. These are just some ways that you can utilize this intent to create messaging and reach out to the right people. Now we want to go through 5 outbound best practices. So the first outbound best practice is going to be prioritizing your accounts based on the intent engagement you're showing. So understand account intent and reach out in the early phases of their research. If the account is also showing activity on your website, understand what they're looking at and target them with information and messaging that's relevant to those interests. And then lastly, is if you're seeing both intent and on-site engagement, and then they're starting to open, click, and respond to your emails, you need to make this a hot account. Next is you absolutely need to make sure that you're doing your research. Never get caught having not done your homework on your prospect. Understand their business and offerings, any relevant market trends, keywords you think they might potentially be interested in, and any recent product launches or company hires that would make your product or service a priority. It's really important. You might only have one shot at this account. You need to make it count and attach a positive image to your company. So just as important as doing research on your accounts, you really need to understand your individual prospect and what their interests are and what they care about. So researching on social is a must. You need to follow them on social, understand if you have any connections in common, and see what they talk about on those social pages. Can you tie that to the value that you can bring to them? I have an example here from both my LinkedIn page and my Twitter profile, where on LinkedIn I talk about leading a team of 40 and what my role and responsibilities are. Use that up front in your email or in your subject line. That's really going to catch my interest and get me to engage. Similarly, on Twitter, people might talk a little bit more about some of their personal interests. If you were reading my profile, you can see up front that I talk about liking to play horseshoes or liking New Orleans brass bands. If you were to send me a direct mail with something involving horseshoes, or include a YouTube video with a brass band that I like, that'll catch my attention and it'll get me to read through your email and potentially take a meeting with you. Personalize your emails. I can't underestimate the importance of this one. I think a lot of people know that personalization is important. We found that personalized emails have 2x both open and reply rates, and I think it's even more important in times of crisis that we find ourselves in today. You really need to be showing that you're taking the time to understand people, and you want to kind of engage with them in a better way, not just kind of automate all your outreach. If you know that they recently won an award, or they got recognized for company performance, or received funding, or even your prospect had a recent promotion, these are all great things to utilize to just say, hey, congrats. You want to understand their role and responsibilities and include that in your email, because you want to be able to tie what they care about to how you can help. And then lastly, I think everyone's trying to look for this silver bullet to prospecting. It doesn't exist. If it did, we'd all be hitting 150% of quota, and we wouldn't need to have webinars like this. So, keep your email short, knowing that you're going to be engaging with these people multiple times, and you're going to be able to include more of this information. You don't have to cram it all into one email. So the next is leverage the marketing assets that you have. Your marketing team takes a lot of time to create all of this great content, and it can all be used to really engage your prospects and let them know about more about how you can help. So, share industry reports that mention your brand. If you have customer case studies or even product demos or videos that you can share, those are all great things to share with your prospects. When you're doing this, you might want to consider where they are in the buying journey to determine which assets are appropriate. So if you know they're just starting to do research, then maybe an industry report that can help your prospect understand what it is that you and the competitors in your space do to introduce the topic would be good. If they're really starting to engage and show some of these buying signals, a case study to show how you've made your customer successful is great. And then if they've raised their hand, they're an opportunity, you want to get them into a demo as quick as possible so they can start understanding how they might utilize your product. In the example we have here, we did a quick link to, we knew that a customer of ours was a competitor of our prospects. We wanted to show what we were doing in that space, and then we were able to track if the prospect had clicked through and shown interest in this particular case study. And the last one is think outside of the box. The people that you're sending these emails to, they receive hundreds of these a week, if not thousands. So you need to make sure that you're creative, you stand out in the inbox, and that you grab their attention. Being a person who stands out will make it easier to get future responses or even referrals. And then I always like, as a manager, I give bonus points for when you can get them to forward it around to their coworkers, or even like respond back to me and say, hey, I thought this person on your team sent this really great email. I wanted to highlight what they did. And there's an example here from someone on our team who had done their research, understood that our prospect was in B2B marketing and they liked CrossFit. So we tied CrossFit messaging to a B2B marketing mindset. The prospect responded, you got me with my two favorite words, CrossFit and marketing, let's talk. Okay, now we want to wrap it up with how we make this actionable. So you want to make sure that you are able to create lists based on your intent topics. So being able to easily filter on what those intent topics are, understand how these accounts are scored, and then put them into your outreach list for the week, the month, the quarter, however you want to organize it, understand what they care about, and use that. You then want to build a template library based on those high-value keywords and topics so that you can easily go in, understand, if you're using a tool like a SalesLoft or an Outreach, understand, okay, this template on this particular topic has better open or response rates, and I want to use messaging like that. Then it's really important to be tracking, intent signals and engagement at an account level. Send out your messaging, and then start tracking either through your sales engagement solution or marketing automation solution. Are they opening, clicking, responding to emails? Then you know you're on the right track, and you absolutely need to continue with this account. And I think being able to immediately respond to engagement, so if you can see real-time intent that an account was clicking and going onto your website, call them back immediately. Try to catch them while they're still on the site so that what you want to talk about is fresh in their mind. Send a follow-up email that includes more links to similar topics, and if they click, you know you're on the right track. So it's really important to make sure that you continually track what they're engaging with and use that in future outreach. And then we'll just finish on a real-life example where we used some personalization to this prospect based on a promotion and some of their hobbies. We included some of the intent keywords boxed in blue on what we knew they were interested in. That first email didn't work, so we sent a follow-up email about a week later. We included that link to a customer case study. And then we noticed that they had immediately clicked on that case study, but hadn't really responded to us. So we sent an immediate email back saying, hey, I saw there was some interest here, would love to talk to you, and it booked the meeting. So can't underestimate how important intent and engagement and tracking all of that is to producing opportunities and getting in front of the right people. So that's it. Our key takeaways, from this session are: you need to know who to target. Absolutely need to do your research. You should focus on quality over quantity for outreach. You want to make sure that you train your team to understand intent signals and keywords and understand when your prospects and customers are engaging, and then take action on all of this great intent and engagement that you're seeing.
Awesome. Really good stuff, Jay and Vanessa. Appreciate it. We covered a lot of ground and had some good questions come in. I want to make sure we get to a few of those before we wrap up. First question we had came in from Karen. She said a lot of the examples we shared were a little more outbound focused, and she asked if there's any examples or thoughts you had about how it can be applied on an inbound strategy.
Yeah, so I think that, in inbound, a lot of times you'll have someone that's interested in a webinar you just did. You reach out, they don't respond. I think understanding when they're re-engaging or being able to follow some of that click tracking or engage them with similar topics and see when they're showing buying intent signals can absolutely be applied to inbound.
Okay, awesome. Marie asked if you could share some more thoughts on what type of different intent signals are you using and applying and at different stages?
Yeah, so I think when I first start to understand which accounts I want my team to prioritize, I think high-value keywords has to be number one. And right behind high-value keywords is going to be some of that competitive intent, knowing when they're researching all the different players in your space. These are some of the best buying intent signals out there. I really like some of the technographic intent as well. And that can either be through tech tags on websites or some of those job postings we mentioned. Those are some really strong signals. Yeah, so those would be the main ones. And then if they're coming to your site, first-party intent is always going to be the strongest and should absolutely be how you prioritize. So if you see a high number of page views on high-value pages, that's the best intent out there. Make sure you're utilizing that.
Okay, great. Question from Paul. This may be one you both could tackle. How are you doing ongoing education for your sales teams on like best practices and how to apply some of the things you shared?
Yeah, I mean, I can take it from a marketing perspective. For us, we have a lot of different ways that we do sales enablement. We're really in lockstep with our sales team, so we have monthly meetings with them talking about, what we're launching and how they can utilize it. We also have a weekly email that goes out on Sunday night or Monday morning, so it's called our campaign priorities email, which has every single campaign that we're executing on, has all the details such as what are our goals, what are the collateral and assets you can use to promote this, what are the Salesforce campaigns you need to utilize. So we have all of that bundled up in one email that goes out at the beginning of the week, so the sales team can utilize that as they're planning their weeks out. So a lot of different things. We really try to have as much communication with the sales team as we can, just so we're providing them with as much value as we can when it comes to our marketing programs.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll just add on that collaboration between teams, so sharing what good looks like. If you have a place where you can collect all of the great emails or call tracks that got wins, or if you use a messaging tool like Slack, just have this culture of sharing and showing what good looks like. I think that goes a long way as well.
All right, awesome. I want to get one more question in from Jake. He said that they've recently started to change and look at different metrics of success around account-based marketing, but he's asking if you guys would share any different ways of measuring success for account-based selling.
Yeah, I can take that one. I think, as salespeople, or at least as sales managers, we're looking at how many emails did you send, how many calls did you make, how many contacts did you add, how many accounts did you touch. But I think it's really important in anything account-based that you are monitoring engagement statistics. So, who's responding, and is this account showing a lot of those engagement statistics? Those would be ones. So call connects, email replies, I think are really important to monitor.
Awesome. All right, this has been really great, Jay and Tanessa, really great insights. Really love the real-world examples. I think there's a lot of prescriptive things people can borrow and apply. So I want to thank you both. We didn't get to some of the questions that came in. We're cutting tight on time, but I will forward those to Jay and Tanessa and ask them to respond to some of you directly. Thanks again, Jay and Tanessa. This was awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right, quick reminder, everybody. Okay, our next session is going to be a really cool one. We're all working, staying safe at home, which is making it a little bit different in the way we interact. So our next session is going to be really cool, virtual lunch and learn, and sharing on the topics of virtual lunch and learns. We're going to be talking about how B2B brands can pivot in-person meals to work from home settings, and there'll be some cool opportunities for some of you out there to win some Grubhub free lunches, so keep an eye out for that, and that's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern, so hopefully you can take advantage of that. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you on the next session.